All right, so we're going to start with part A of the software guide. So, main takeaways and objectives from this one, we're going to get VS Code installed and we're going to get GitHub installed. We're going to go through the steps to create a GitHub account, more or less, and then acquire access to the organization, and then installation of VS Code. So, I have already installed these on this computer. I deleted them and reinstalled them, and it still kept some of the logins and everything. So this is going to be much more of a broad overview than it is a step-by-step type in this here kind of thing. Uh, if you're not super familiar with GitHub, it's not a big deal. It really does a good job of walking it through, walking you through it. And there's just a couple little areas we want to pay attention to. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a GitHub account. Uh, Nothing too interesting here. I've got the website pulled up. If you were to literally just type in GitHub right in the top corner, you've got create an account. It starts out super easy. It's going to ask you for your email. It's going to ask you to go into, setting a password, all this. It's free. Just sign up for it. You don't need a dev account. You don't need anything interesting. Just get in there and then remember your username. That's what your sub-team lead's going to need to know in order to get you added into the organization. So once you sign in, I can show you what it will kind of sort of look like. Obviously, my account has stuff in it. It's not completely blank, but this is what it will look like. What you're going to want to pay attention to is in the corner, your top repositories and your teams. So we're going to get you added into a team. This will only show up after you've already gotten added to the organization. You can go to the organization just bluntly by typing in, just like it says in the guide, KSU-MS, and you can look at the public repositories. You will not be able to edit anything. You won't be able to do anything with it, but it's good to go ahead and get familiar with. Once your subgroup lead has added you, we can go in and we can look at what these repositories, what are housed in the organization. So to give a really, really short brief, this does not do it justice at all. Essentially, our organization houses the repositories, which is the files of code that we are, housing here and controlling their versions. You can scroll through them, see what they are. Inside the software here, we can open one up, we can look in it, we can see all the things included, and we can read the readmes. What we're going to be working in today is purely the training one. We're going to restrict ourselves to training until we can get familiar, get upload pulls, make sure that branches are okay, and then we'll go out and we'll look in the other ones. So to start with it, we next need to get GitHub Desktop installed, and then we're going to get VS Code installed. So we'll go back to Chrome. If you type in GitHub Desktop into Google or use the link that's in the guide, it'll bring you directly here. You download it. It's going to install. It's going to look really, really similar to this, but it's going to ask you to log in first. Same username, password. You just signed up for GitHub. This is just the desktop GUI version. We're not going to do much in this aside from that. Some people download all of their files immediately from here and then just open them using VS Code. I prefer to start, by restricting ourselves a little more, and we're just going to open one repository at a time in VS. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to download VS Code. Type in VS Code download. Also, the link is in the guide. No login required. Absolutely nothing complicated required here. So we'll go ahead and get VS Code installed, and I'll go ahead and show you what it's going to look like when you open it. So aside from these recent things, this is exactly what you're going to get. There's going to be nothing in Explorer, nothing in Search, nothing in Source Control, and nothing in the extensions either. So immediately when we get in here, we're going to want to get into that training repository. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to click clone repository, and then it's going to allow us to put in a URL or pick a source. The easiest way I find when starting out with this one is we'll go ahead and open up what we were in, right? So when we're in the team, in the organization here, we're going to click the repository we want to work in. And over here, you have a green button that says code. So if you click this, you can copy this link. With that link copied, we can type this directly into here and we can pull that repository. It's going to ask us where to save it. Please create yourself a folder on your local machine, keep everything in it, keep it simple. So I keep all mine and Git projects here, and I'm going to select this as my destination. Mine's going to error out because I already have this downloaded and it doesn't want to double up there. So I'm just going to hit cancel and go a bit of a different way to get to it. So I'm going to select it manually. Yours should have done exactly that just from the pull request. You might get prompted with, do I want to trust this source? Yeah, as long as it's from our repository, it's not going to have anything, malicious in it. And then it's going to open up we only have one file, so our one file and our README. So there's a couple things we want to pay attention to here. One, in Explorer, we can click on training, which is the repository we're in, and we can see what's included. It only has two files. One's the README, and one's our source code, or CPP. I don't want to use bad terminology here. That'll bite us in the butt later. So in a more populated branch, you might have a lot more going on here, or you might have a lot less if you're working on a rather simple program like this. So nothing crazy to it. The activity we've given y'all here, and it's outlined in the document as well, is to go in and edit this file. So we can read through the instructions here in the README, and we can figure out what we need to type in and add. I've already added it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to bump this down a line. You know what, maybe for this one, we'll do test. So I'll do test. Need to not let it try and give me any suggestions because we're not actually doing anything. So what we can see here is we can see green anywhere I've added things. So Git does a great job of tracking everything for us. And if I were to delete something, it would also indicate that a change took place. So we'll go ahead and Control S to save this. And we're going to see some things pop up over in this corner in source control. So this is where we're able to commit changes and then upload them. So anytime you make a change of any magnitude, really, you should commit it. So if I just edited this file and I'm going to go down and work in a different method lower on or a different object down below, I want to go ahead and commit what I've got. You can commit as many times as you want. I could do 10 commits for this one file, and when I go to push all this up to the cloud, I will have each of those individually outlined. And that's going to help a massive amount when we're making a lot of changes and say I make a mistake in one of these and we catch it. Well, let's go find exactly which edit I did that in, and I can just revert just that section. As with everything, everything should be commented. So I've gone in here, I've created my test for the video, so that's going to be my comment. And I can go ahead and commit that. And it's going to give me another option here, sync changes. If I'm going to do a little bit more, I could leave it. I could not push it. If I'm done for the night, go ahead and push it. Please, for the love of God, don't hold on to things until you're done. Your whole way through, you need to be pushing it. If I work a little bit on Wednesday and I know I'm going to come back and spend another couple hours on Thursday working on something, push it. Push it in between. It's what this software is here for. That's what's going to keep you out of trouble. That's what's going to keep your teammates in the loop. So I'm going to go ahead and save changes, and that's going to push everything up to the cloud. Then everything's going to be up to date. If I wanted to see if my edits took effect, a pretty rudimentary way of doing it is I could literally go into GitHub. I could open that file, and I can see here that line 12 and 13 have changed. So bit of a quick run through, right? We didn't learn any particulars of any of the software. The goal is just to get it in, get the code up on your screen so that you can see it and be familiar with the tools. A couple other things I want to touch while we're here is just using this interface in general. If I want to open something else, be diligent about it. What we're going to do is we're going to go to File, We're going to close folder. This brings us back to that original screen we started with outside of everything. If I want to reopen it, I can go to source control, I can open up the folder, I can open up the Git projects, and I can open that repository back up. Just like before, I can go right back to it. I can push and pull from here. You know, keeping things clean and being diligent is incredibly important to keeping everyone on the same page, keeping the code clean. But I think we covered everything we need to hit on this guy. So we've created a GitHub account, nothing interesting there. Acquiring access to the organization, that's a lot more about talking to your lead and then knowing how to navigate there. And we've installed VS Code. We already dipped a bit into part B, so we'll leave it at this and go through the rest later.